So good morning, everybody. Good evening, wherever you are, in the US. Yesterday, we went through a few verses of the second chapter, and we did a roundup of the first chapter. It's an interesting comment that Dr. Sri Krishna made in our chat. So he said, we looked at this verse, Yaneva Hatvana Jajivishamaha. I don't wish to live at the cost of, killing all these people. So he was mentioning that it is very, very similar to the nature of an addict, right? I mean, the first thing in the morning, if I don't get my cup of tea or coffee, I can't live. Or a highly diabetic person, oh, if I don't get sweets to eat, then there is no point of this life. I don't want this life if I can't do what I really I'm craving to do. So in that sense, it's also a sort of addiction attachment to certain thing, that you are willing to sacrifice your own life for a very, very insignificant thing compared to your life, right? um, so in yesterday's the verses that we discussed, basically Arjuna continues giving a few reasons for not wanting to fight, because all these noble elders, Bhishma, Drona, all these people are worthy of respect. So how can I kill them? And then finally he comes to the point where he says, I am not sure what to do. Should they attack us? Should we attack them? Should they conquer us? Should we conquer them? I don't know what to do. Please guide me. So he comes to the point of saying, okay, I'm really confused. Please guide me. And that's when Krishna begins his, counsel, Bhagavad Gita. The actual instruction starts from today's session. There is one point before we get into the session today that I like to mention. There seemed to be a wrong notion that Bhagavad Gita is a work that instigates people to do warfare and fighting, and this. Why should we keep this book as such a reverential book, and so on? There are some questions. No doubt they are from some mischievous origin, because when you look at the Mahabharata, there are more number of chapters dedicated to the peace brokering process. The attempts at peace have been so prolonged. There are more number of chapters trying to work out the peace between Pandavas and Kauravas than there are verses in the Gita which are specifically motivating Arjuna to fight. So there may not even be like 25 or 30 shlokas in the Mahabharata where Krishna is telling Arjuna to go and fight. There are more than 30 chapters in the Mahabharata which are about, the process of trying to somehow broker peace between the cousins. So it's important to know that this is a result of having failed in the peace process. It's not arbitrarily, landed up on the battlefield. Another question which is very important that's raised when we are studying Gita, especially when we come to the instruction, is whose version of Bhagavad Gita are you following? Now, the cheeky answer to that would be Krishna's version of Bhagavad Gita. But a more serious answer would be there are so many translations, so many interpretations of the Gita. Like I told you, starting from Shankaracharya, 7th century onwards, so many people have written commentaries. The present purpose is for us to try and understand the verses from the basic Sanskrit shloka, and trying to break it down into its components and trying to understand what it is saying. Now, will there be a bias? Of course, as a human being, everybody will have biases. We all have biases, right? As much as possible, I'm trying to be unbiased, trying to stick to the original shloka. There will be some unknown biases. The only time where we will not have bias is when we are in deep sleep. In deep sushupti, we will not have any bias. All of us are extraordinary in that state. But in the wakeful state, all our culturing, our background, our thought process, all this thing will color our vision. And our entire life journey is trying to remove all these colors. That's what happens when you remove all these other colors. You can see things as they are. That's the state of Jivan Mukti also, the state of realization, like some Ramana Maharshi or like Krishna or Buddha, like this, completely seeing things as they are. Then that's what we all try to reach. But there will be biases. So despite these biases, if we try to look at the verses as they are, then we can think about interpretation. We can think about adding a layer over this. So the basic foundation is Bhagavad Gita shloka. Over that, we can build whatever beautiful fancy apartment you want. You can do your interior decoration the way you like. But first, the foundation has to be very strong, right? So we will focus on that aspect. Further to a suggestion by one of the participants, I thought it will be good to cover a few important concepts that come in the Gita that are important in the discussion, because there may be some people who are not familiar with these ideas. So in case you already know these terms, then you have to put up with a few minutes of repetition so that it benefits people who may not know these terms. In the conception of Sanatana Dharma, the very, very fundamental concept of what we call as values in English is equated with something called as Purusharthas. Purusha means human being, and Artha, the ends or objectives or the cardinal values in this context. So the 4 cardinal values of any human being. So Purusha here means human being, not in the commonly used, like in Hindi we say Purush means, or in Kannada we say Purusha for male. But in Sanskrit, Purusha is any, Purishete iti Purushaha is how it is explained. The person who is residing in the body, the spirit, the human being is a Purusha. So the objectives or the cardinal values of human beings are 4. One is dharma, then artha, kama, and moksha. Kama refers to desire. All of us have desires at different levels, right? So we have it could be a physical desire, it could be emotional, intellectual, whatever it is desire. And when we have a desire, it is very important for us to fulfill that desire. Otherwise, there is frustration and anger and inadequacy and all these things. The moment we have a desire, we try to fulfill that desire. It could be a very simple thing like I'm desiring to eat something, I go and prepare a meal, or I go and buy some food and eat it. So immediate fulfillment. But there may be a other longer term desire. I want to become a doctor, I want to become a lawyer. We have to study for so many years. There is desire, kama, and there is a means to fulfill that desire, which is called artha. Oftentimes, artha is equated with wealth, because if you have money, you can fulfill your desire. But there are some desires that are requiring things other than money also. So artha is a general term for all the means to fulfill the desires. Now, everybody has desires, and everybody is trying to look for means to fulfill their desires. So it's very important that in your quest to fulfill your desire, you don't trample over my quest to fulfill my desire. So how to manage this? There's so much of so many people, each of them have their own purposes. They want to fulfill their dreams. How do we ensure that one person's attempt to fulfill their desire is not coming in the way of somebody else? Right? Just like how all of us are driving on the street, we all are driving our car or motorcycle or bicycle or whatever. There is a certain establishment of a traffic police and a signal and no free left, no free right, and these symbols to ensure a smooth flow of the traffic. If there was no traffic rules, if there was no signal, there would be absolute chaos. So that set of rules and regulations that help the smooth fulfillment of the kama through the artha is called dharma. In general, dharma is, you can equate it with the sustainability. That which sustains is dharma. So anything which is sustainable for a longer time is dharma. So therefore, once we have defined dharma in such a broad sense, all the other noble values like being honest and not harming other people, not stealing other people's property, not coveting after other people's goods, all these things come under dharma, because it is not sustainable. If you are a thief, you will get caught one day. It's not a sustainable profession. Whereas if you are a lawyer or a software engineer or you're a painter or you're a musician or something, it is far more sustainable in society. Simply because every day morning you're not waking up with a fear of getting caught, like it happens for somebody who is a thief, right? Or somebody who is having a clandestine affair, he's always afraid that he will get caught. Whereas if you are leading a life of good morals, good values, you will lead a life without that fear. So when we established this idea of dharma, all the other values come under it. In dharma itself, there are different varieties where we will go into the details as we reach the text. However, the basic idea of this taking a few minutes out is so that when these terms appear in the Gita, you are not suddenly taken aback. What does this mean? I've never heard this before. Just to put your mind at rest. We saw the four Purusharthas. The fourth Purushartha is called moksha. When dharma is able to help you manage your artha and kama. So you have a desire, that management of the desire is inside the framework of dharma, which is sustainability, goodness. Then it leads to a state of moksha, it tends towards a state of moksha, which is complete release, absolute a state of complete bliss, a state of complete fulfillment, right? When a certain desire is fulfilled, you get a mini moksha. You get little happiness. The moment you're craving for your brownie fudge or something, you put the first spoon of that in your mouth, you get a momentary happiness. Or you're really been wanting to watch this movie, you go to the cinema hall and watch the movie. When you come out of that, for a few minutes you have the thrill. Oh, what a great movie, what a fantastic time I had. But that's only short-lived. When it is a sensory thing, it is short-lived. But if you are in that state of wow, amazing, that kind of a state, all through the day, all through the week, all through the month, at all times, irrespective of the changes in the outside world, you are in that state of complete happiness. That is what is moksha, right? So it is rather straightforward, because all of us have experienced these mini mokshas, the mini anandas for short period of time. So whether we listen to a beautiful music concert or watch a movie, or we are deeply immersed in some reading a book, or we have a nice afternoon nap, all these things we have experienced that pure joy. But it is a very short-lived thing, and it is triggered from some external agency. When there is no need of any trigger, when always a person is in peace, that is called moksha. So this is the four Purusharthas. Another word that often shows up in the Bhagavad Gita is Atma. The word Atma can mean the spirit or the soul. Atma can also mean body. That's why in some of the Indian languages we have Atma Hatya, right? How can you kill the soul? So it's Atma in that, when we say Atma Hatya, it means killing the body only. Atma also means body, but many times Atma means the soul or the spirit or the inner being. When the body dies, the soul doesn't die, only the body dies. These concepts come in the Bhagavad Gita. Then we have this concept of Brahman. Brahman is different from Brahma. Brahma is one of the deities who has four heads and he's always chanting Veda. He's the creator of the universe and so on. That is Brahma, along with Vishnu and Maheshwara, very important deities in Sanatana Dharma. Brahmana is one of the four Varnas. It is also one of the four divisions of Veda. But Brahman is the supreme being. It is defined as all whatever is there, a superset of everything. All pervasive being is Brahman. Now, this is a conception which is unique to Sanatana Dharma, because the moment we define Brahman as all pervading, everything that exists is embraced by Sanatana Dharma. So there is no question of there is a special people here and there are the people who are outside of our group. This conception is very unique. Everything is part of this Brahman. You cannot, when we define Brahman as being all pervading entity that embraces everything, there is nothing that can be outside of Brahman. So that is why if you ask a Hindu, do you believe in God? Is there God? Is there Brahman? If you define Brahman as God, he will say there's only Brahman. There is nothing else. There is no conception outside of Brahman. Right? So this is the definition of Brahman. We find another word, karma. Sometimes you would have seen this in the context, especially in the West, they use this word karma a lot, which is to refer to karma phala or to the payback kind of thing. So if you do good things, you will get good things. That concept is captured in the word karma. So good karma, bad karma, and so on. That is also one of the meanings of the word karma. But karma basically means action. Any kind of action is karma. When we add adjective to that, some Vaidika karma, then it is all the actions or all the activities, the things undertaken as prescribed by Veda or Vedic ritual is called Vaidika karma. Any activity is karma. When we say nishkama karma, that means working without desire, working for the sake of doing that work. Nishkama karma. Sakama karma is when we are working with a view to get our desires fulfilled. So karma is essential when we want to get our work done. Then even in karma, there are different divisions, which we will see as it comes. There is a word called Maya. Maya also is very widespread nowadays, especially in the last maybe 50, 100 years. Everybody in the world knows about Maya. It's an important concept that has gone outside of India. Maya can be divine power of illusion. It is anything which comes in the way of you realizing the truth. So Maya is something that covers your vision, inner vision. And Maya can happen either by like whatever is there is concealed, that's called avarana, or whatever is not there, it can be made to appear, which is called vikshepa. So it covers your eyes from seeing the reality, or it creates something which is not existing, like a mirage. So this is Maya. So it is important for us to break free from the clutches of Maya in order to see the reality. And finally, we have the three concepts of yajna, dana, and tapas. We can look at this as a means to implement dharma. We know that dharma is something which is sustainable, the principle of sustainability or a moral law. How do we bring dharma into practice? By yajna, dana, and tapas. Yajna is at a basic level, it is the ritual, fire ritual of the Veda, where they will build an altar and they pour different oblations, ghee, and they put the samit and so on. So this is a Vedic fire ritual, is called yajna. But yajna also refers to the spirit of working without attachments, selfless service, and so on. Dana is philanthropy, charity, whatever we have gained, we try to share with the world. And tapas is focused work, austerity, without getting distracted with other things. We are serious in work. So if we are able to work, only then we can share with people. And only then we can have yajna also is got the element of celebration, element of getting people together. So yajna is often used as a metaphor for working with a certain sense of enjoyment, a feeling of sharing with others, and so on. Okay, so there's a question about Brahman. So everything is part of Brahman. So the way Brahman is defined, so good, bad, ugly, everything is part of Brahman. Okay, by definition, the entire universe, all the people, everything is part of Brahman. So because it is that's the way it is defined. All the different kinds of people, different places, everything is part of this idea of Brahman. Now there are asuras, there are devas, there are even today there are good people, there are bad people. Everything comes under the purview of Brahman. inside that, we have the concept of dharma, based on which we say this is dharma, this is right, these are noble people, these are ignoble people. There is an entire chapter dedicated in the Gita, the 16th chapter, which talks about the divine or the daivi sampat, the divine qualities, and the demonic qualities, asuri sampat. So there is a distinction of good and bad, but in the larger conception of Brahman, everything is included. Because when we are in a state of deep sleep, or when we are in a state of perfect realization, we don't see any distinctions, right? So therefore, we have the conception. Then just I will repeat, somebody had asked me. Avarana means covering. So when the truth is covered, like if there is some, something in front of you, it is covered with a cloth, or it is covered with a blanket, whatever. So that's some covering, so that you don't see what is there. That is avarana. Vikshepa is the appearance of something that doesn't exist, like a mirage or some optical illusions we have seen when we are young, right? So that is vikshepa. This is the two ways in which Maya works. So with this, I think just to give you an idea, so that when you encounter some of these terms, you're not suddenly surprised. So with this, we will go to the second chapter. The larger structure of the second chapter is the first few shlokas. The first 10 shlokas can be seen as an extension of chapter 1. Then there is a discussion on the nature of Atma, which is the soul or spirit. There is a discussion on the necessity to perform our dharma. And finally, from the 55th verse onwards, there is a discussion on the nature of a sthita prajna, the nature of somebody who is balanced, the person who is aware of the reality, the nature of a sage, we can say, a realized sage. So this is the rough division of the second chapter. Let us go to, I'll share my screen now. Can you see my screen? Okay. So we have Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Krishna's opening lines. So at this point of time, when Arjuna says, I don't know what to do, I'm confused, please guide me. Then Krishna, with a subtle smile, he says these words, Sri Bhagavan Vacha. Ashocyan anvashocastvam prajnavadamscha bhashase gatasu nagatasumscha na anushocanti panditaha. So you grieve, you lament for something that you should not be lamenting, yet you seem to speak words of wisdom. The wise people don't grieve for the living, they don't grieve for the dead. So what he says, Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Tvam ashocyan anvashochaha. You are lamenting for something which is not required. You don't need to lament for it. Tvam prajnavadan cha bhashase. Prajnavada is things which appear to be wise, but they are shallow statements. So they have the semblance of something that sounds very intelligent, very good, but actually it's very hollow. Sometimes you see our movie stars or politicians, they make some big speech that the first hearing you will think, oh, this is very nice, but when you actually go dissect it line by line, you realize it's just a lot of balderdash, right? So prajnavadamscha bhasase. So you're saying things which appear smart, but they are not really right. Panditaha gatasun, gata plus asun, gatasun agatasun na cha anushochanti. So what he's saying basically is that the wise people, panditaha in this case, they don't lament over the grieving, they don't lament over the people who are alive or the ones who are dead. So whether somebody is dead or alive, they don't grieve. Now for ashocyan anvashocastvam, sometimes it is translated as you are lamenting for people who don't deserve your lament. Now, when Dr. Sri Krishna and I were working on this, he said that this really doesn't make much sense, because when we look at this in the context of some of the verses, especially the 25th, 26th, 27, 28, all these verses of the second chapter, he is talking about a larger idea of not grieving about this reality. So it is better translated as you grieve for that which you should not grieve. This general tendency of yours is problematic. You should not be grieving at all for these things, because the wise person does not lament for somebody who is alive, does not lament for somebody who is dead. Okay. So Bhargav, you would like to switch on and repeat after me. Sri Bhagavan Vacha.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha.
Ashocyan Anvashocastvam.
Ashocyan Anvashocastvam.
Prajna Vadamscha Bhashase.
Prajna Vadamscha Bhashase.
Gatasu Nagatasumscha.
Gatasu Nagatasumscha.
Nanu Shochanti Panditaha.
Nanu Shochanti Panditaha.
Thank you. Natvevaham jatunasam natvam neme janadhipaha na chaiva na bhavishyamaha sarve vayamatah param. There was never a time when you or I or these kings did not exist. There will never be a time when we cease to exist. So let's look at the prose order. Aham jatu na asam na tu eva tvam asihi na ime janadhipaha asan na atah param vayam sarvena cha eva bhavishyamaha. There was no point of time, never jatu na tu eva aham na asam. So there was no point in time when I did not exist. There was no point of time when you did not exist. And there was no point in time when all these kings did not exist. There will also not be a time when we cease to exist. So here, when he's saying we always existed, we will always exist, he is referring to the Atma, which is the soul, the spirit, not the body, obviously, right? Because the Krishna, Arjuna, all these kings, they were born at some point of time, and we have seen in the Mahabharata that they died at some point of time. So what he is trying to say here is that the inner spirit was never born, it will never die. So this is very interesting, because the problem posed by Arjuna is that, okay, I'm not going to fight, I can't kill these people. So straight away off the bat, Krishna says, what do you mean by killing? We are always there. We will always be there. So he starts with this concept of Atma. It may seem like a strange thing, but what we have to remember, thinking from Krishna's point of view, he's trying to see, he started off with Kutasva Kashmanam Idam Vishame Samupastitam and so on. He's trying to convince Arjuna at the earliest, whatever will work at that point of time. If he can, he's not, Krishna has not started out the plan. Okay, now he's asked this question. Another 18 chapters, I am going to be giving this bhashan. No, he's in the middle of war. So it so happened later on that Bhagavad Gita was spread out into 18 chapters. But Krishna did not have the idea, oh, I'm going to tell this in the 12th chapter. Let me come up with this brilliant idea. No, he wants to, as quickly as possible, convince Arjuna and get to the war. It so happens it took this 18 chapters. So he starts off saying that this Atma is eternal. You don't need to worry about this. And all his arguments, if you see, they are not one after the other in some, like in the form of a textbook kind of a thing. He's trying his best to quickly convince Arjuna so that he can get started with the war. So here he talks about the nature of the Atma. Okay. Na tvevaham jatu nasam
नत्वेवाहं जातु नासं
न त्वं नेमे जनाधिपाः
न त्वं नेमे जनाधिपाः
न चैव न भविष्यामः
न चैव न भविष्यामः
सर्वे वयमतः परम्.
सर्वे वयमतः परम्.
देहिनोऽस्मिन् यथा देहे कौमारं यौवनं जरा तथा देहांतर प्राप्तिः धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यति. So the Atma that lives in the body, it passes through childhood, youth, and old age. Similarly, a Atma takes on a different body after its death, and a man of fortitude, a woman of fortitude, Dhira, a person of fortitude, does not get agitated by these changes. They don't get disturbed by these changes. Dehinaha asmin dehe. So dehin is like atma. Dehi or dehin shabda. The one residing in the deha is body. One residing in the deha is called dehi, which is the atma. So dehinaha asmin dehe, in this body, yatha, just as the dehi in the body passes through Kaumara, which is childhood, Yauvana, youth, and Jara, old age. So, even through a course of a human life, the Atma is experiencing, is observing, is a witness to the changes in the age. We pass through childhood and youth and old age, and then we die. Similarly, Tatha, Dehantara Dehantara Praptihi. Similarly, we pass through different bodies. The soul witnesses the change from different body 1 to 2 to 3 and so on. Tatra dhiraha na muhyati. Knowing this reality, a wise person, a person of fortitude, who knows, who is not perturbed by, who is having fortitude, is not perturbed by these changes. Uh, For example, when we are young, and for the first time, when the child milk teeth falls down, some tooth falls down, there is a fear. There is, oh my God, there is a milk teeth is falling down. But will there be agitation for the parents or for the grandparents? Because they would have seen how many children, and it's a common thing that milk teeth will fall at this age. They obviously will not be perturbed by these changes because they're so it is such a common thing. For that child who is not having the awareness that this is going to happen, he gets scared. Or like when young boys, when they reach the age of 12 or 13, the voice starts breaking and it becomes a baser voice, right? So suddenly when that happens, oh, they get worried. Oh, what's wrong with me? What happened to me? But an adult knows that, okay, this is it's a part of growing up, man, not a big deal. Or when, especially when boys and girls grow taller, at the knees we have these stretch marks, so we are wondering what's happening, what's some discoloration at my knees. But then the person who is adult will say, oh, this is all signs of growing up, this is normal. Similarly, when we are in our 30s or 20s, depending now, whatever age, your beard or your hair starts graying, it becomes white color. You may be, oh my God, what's happening to me? Then somebody who's older say, yeah, you're growing older, so you think your graying will happen or balding will happen. These are all part of growing up from youth to old age. This transition is there. So somebody who is aware of these changes, who knows about it, will treat it very, very lightly. But if you are experiencing it and you are attached to it, you will obviously feel burdened by it. Just like when you go to a doctor, the doctor has seen so many cases that he is not at all surprised. Oh, yes, this is what's happening. There's this flu around in the town. Yes, you also caught it. Please take this whatever paracetamol, you'll be fine. But for us, it's a big burden, right? So a person of fortitude, dhiraha, will realize these are all natural things. It happens. Birth and death are normal thing. So if you are a dhira, then you should realize that this is just a temporary agitation. Now go and fight. This is the thing what he's trying to say. Okay. Dehinosmin yatha dehe.
देहिनोऽस्मिन् यथा देहे
Kaumaram yauvanam jara.
कौमारं यौवनं जरा
तथा देहांतर प्राप्ति
तथा देहान्तरप्राप्तिः
धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यति.
धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यति
मात्रा स्पर्शास्तु कौन्तेय शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखदाः आगमापायिनो नित्यस्तां स्थितिक्षस्व भारत. When the senses come in contact with the sensates, then we feel the sensations of heat and cold, pleasure and pain. These sensations come and go. They are impermanent. Therefore, you must have patience to endure them. Patiently endure this. Bharata, again, is a Sambodhana to Arjuna, who is a descendant of Bharata, right? So, so here he has also used Kaunteya, son of Kunti, two epithets. Like I said many times, these epithets are just fillers. Kaunteya, Matra Sparshah to Shitoshna, Shita plus Ushna, cold and heat. Shitoshna, Sukha Dukkha. Sukha, pleasure, Dukkha, pain, Daha, that which grants. Sukha Dukkha Daha. Agama Painaha, Agama plus Apaina, Agama Painaha, Anityaha, something which is impermanent. Bharata Tan Titikshasva. Endure, patiently endure this change. So we have these senses, right? The five sense organs of sight, smell, touch, taste, and sound. So these are the five sense organs: the eyes, ears, tongue, skin, and nose. The five sense organs. The sensates are the triggers for the sense organs, right? So sight is a trigger for the eyes, like this sound is a trigger for the ears. So when these sense organs come in touch with the sensates, smell, taste, texture, sound, and sight, come in touch with the organs, we feel sensation. The sensation is this contact between the sense organ and the sensate. If there is no fragrant substance in my room, there is no question of me smelling something fragrant. So that fragrant substance is there, and my nostrils have to be functioning. My sense of smell should be strong. Then, when these two come in contact, there is a sensation. What kind of sensations? Heat and cold, pleasure and pain, all sorts of sensations come up when these sense organs and sensates come together. These are coming and going, right? So their agama is to come. These are coming, and apayinaha, they are going. And they are anitya. So they are impermanent. So can we have certain sensation permanently for a very long time? No, it's not possible. We can't be seeing something continuously for more than 1 minute. You need to blink your eyes for 2 minutes. So this are coming and going. The sights. Can you always be listening to something? If there is constant noise, you get irritated. You want to run to a place where it is silent. And when we are in deep sleep, all these things are switched off. So it is not possible to always have these sensations. However much you may enjoy it, when it crosses a certain line, you get tired of it, right? So having realized this, that they are impermanent, they come and they go, he says patiently endure this contact with the sensates. Okay. Matra sparshastu kaunteya.
मात्रा स्पर्शास्तु कौन्तेय
Shitoshna sukha dukkadaha.
शीतोष्णसुखदुःखदाः
Agama paino nityaha.
आगमापायिनो नित्याः
तां स्थितिक्षस्व भारत.
तां स्थितिक्षस्व भारत।
यम हि न व्यथयन्त्येते पुरुषं पुरुषर्षभ सम दुःख सुखम धीरम सोमृतत्वया कल्पते. One who is not affected by these sensations, he remains calm, he or she. In Sanskrit, many times you will in the translation also you will see he because it's masculine, but it's only a convention. It applies to everybody. It's quite clear. So a person who does not get perturbed by these, uh, you know, sensation remains calm in pain and pleasure. Such a person is firm in his resolve and attains immortality or attains the highest. He is ready for Amritatvaya Kalpate. He is ready for immortality. He is ready for the highest stage. He is ready for receiving Amrita, in the sense, a state beyond death. Purusha Rishabha is again a reference to Arjuna. It means like a bull among men, or like a very great warrior. Purusha Rishabha. Rishabha means bull. Here, Purusha is among men or among people, whatever you can take it, both the senses actually. Ete yam sama dukkha sukham dhiram purusham na vyathayanti saha hi amritatvaya kalpate. Na vyathayanti, does not get perturbed, does not get agitated in the face of dukkha and sukha. Whether there is dukkha or sukha, whether it is cold or whether it is hot, whether the weather is pleasant or it's unpleasant, despite these, because he's realized that sensations come and go. Now, if this particular sensation is there, this is also going to, this is a passing cloud, this is also going to go away, something new will come. So once he realizes this, he takes sukha and dukkha in the same spirit. Such a person, dhira, such a person of fortitude, he doesn't get perturbed by these things, and he is ready for the highest state. He is prepared. He's preparing himself for immortality. So, like I said, when using dharma, we are able to balance artha and kama. We get prepared for moksha. We tend towards moksha. This is exactly what it is, where you are balancing the different outcomes. You're the same irrespective of whether it is hot or cold, whether it is pain or pleasure. That is you're preparing yourself for immortality. What is immortality? Being always in a state of bliss, right? That is what is immortality, moksha in that sense. So when you are balanced, irrespective of the outcome, naturally you are calmer, you are happier. You don't need to depend. Only if the stock market goes up, you will be happy. Otherwise, you cannot be happy. If your happiness is dependent on the rise and fall of the stock market, then your happiness is very, very volatile. Whereas, irrespective, somebody who has not at all invested in the stock market, his happiness is not at all determined by stock market. Somebody who has never watched cricket in his life, he doesn't know anything about cricket, his happiness will not go up and down when India is playing against another team, because he doesn't even know this thing is happening. Somebody is not watching Super Bowl, they're not supporting any team. It doesn't matter. So, like that, this world itself has become, for a dhira, for a realized person, that it is not, it is whether it is happy, sad, doesn't matter for him. He is always in a state of, balance. So that means he's preparing the ground to be this Jivan Mukta, right? Or what is immortality? Basically, to be in a state of bliss at all times. When you are disconnecting from these, reacting to these outcomes, naturally you become better equipped to be in a state of ananda. Okay. Yam hina vyathayantyete
यं हि न व्यथयन्ते ते
purusham purusha rishabha
पुरुषं पुरुषर्षभा
sama dukkha sukham dhiram
समदुःखसुखं धीरं
somritatvaya kalpate.
सोऽमृतत्वाय कल्पते
नासतो विद्यते भावो ना भावो विद्यते सतः उभयोरपि दृष्टोन्तः त्वनयोस्तत्त्वदर्शिभिः. The unreal doesn't exist. The real never ceases to be. Those who know the ultimate truth have indeed realized the nature of both real and unreal. असतः भावः न विद्यते, सतः न अभावः विद्यते, अनयोः उभयोः सत् असत्. So उभयोः अपि अन्तः तु तत्त्वदर्शिभिः दृष्टः. What is asat is never there. It doesn't exist. Na asat vidyate bhavaha. So the what is asat does not exist, and sat always exists. It never ceases to be. And a person who knows what is sat and what is asat, such a person is said to know the tattva, reality. Tattva darshibihi. Only the people who know tattva know the difference between what is sat and what is asat. Now here it will help us to understand the meaning of the word sat and asat. So sat basically refers to that which exists, or that which is good, that which is true, real, and so on. That's why we have sat is existence. Therefore from sat we have the word satya, which means truth. That which exists is the truth, right? What doesn't exist is mithya, is or you can also look at it as asat. What doesn't exist, what is a lie, a falsehood, asat, or also something which is real, and so on. So he says asat does not exist and sat always exists. So in this case, when he is saying that the body is unreal and the Atma is real, what is he trying to say? Is the body not real? Body also is real. But in the face of a higher reality, which is Atma, body appears to be unreal. Body appears to be asat. When compared to this sat of the Atma, Deha is asat. So only a person who knows what is eternal and what is transient, who knows the distinction between eternal and transient, what is permanent, what is temporary, one who knows the distinction between the two is one who really knows the reality. And when we bring this down to our level in a day-to-day life also, when we know something is a temporary damage, we are far more relaxed as compared to permanent damage, right? When we are carrying a glass of water and that glass of water falls down and the water flows away, that is a certain kind of that's not a you can't say it's not a loss. It is a loss of that cup of water. But if that in that cup was not holding a water, it was holding something far more precious, then our reaction will be different to it. Or if it was holding like milk and water, we will have different reactions. When we know that something is temporary, something is, we can always get it back, we have certain attitude towards it. When we know that it was a permanent damage which is done, then our attitude is different. So it's important, Krishna says, to know the distinction between what is real and what is unreal. And he goes on to say when he defines real and unreal, he goes on to say the body is perishable, whereas the Atma is imperishable and permanent, and so on. But important thing to understand here is that it is not that the body is unreal. It is just that in the face of a higher level of reality, it appears to be unreal. Okay. Nasato vidyate bhavo.
नासतो विद्यते भावो
Na bhavo vidyate satah.
नाभावो विद्यते सतः
Ubhayorapi drishtontah
उभयोरपि दृष्टोऽन्तः
त्वनयोस्तत्त्वदर्शिभिः
त्वनयोस्तत्त्वदर्शिभिः
अविनाशी तु तद्विद्धि येन सर्वमिदं ततं विनाशम् अव्यवस्यास्य न कश्चित् कर्तुमर्हति. The imperishable, in the case this here he is talking about the Atma, pervades everything and nobody can destroy something that is imperishable. So, yena idam sarvam tatam tattu avinashi vidhi asya avyavasya vinasham kartum kaschid apina arhati. So know this, what is pervading all this, yena, by which yena sarvam idam tatam, all this is pervaded, that is no Atma or Brahman. Know that it is imperishable. The imperishable Atma is the one which is pervading everything. It cannot be destroyed. It's very subtle. Now, if it is something physical, it can be destroyed. The concept of destruction, creation, sustenance, all these things apply to the material world. This is transcending the material world, and nobody can destroy the imperishable. Nobody can destroy something which is outside of this framework of the material world. That's what this is saying. Avinashi tu tad vidhi.
अविनाशी तु तद्विद्धि
Yena sarvamidam tatam
येन सर्वमिदं ततं
vinasham avyavasyasya
विनाशम् अव्यवस्यास्य
na kaschit kartum arhati.
न कश्चित् कर्तुमर्हति.
Antavanta ime deha nityasyoktaha sharirinaha anashino prameyasya tasmad yuddhasva bharata. So the body alone is perishable, whereas the Atma seated within is eternal, indestructible, and infinite. Therefore, knowing this reality, take up arms and fight Bharata. Yeah. So Bharata, he's again referring to, I'll go into that. Anashinaha aprameyasya nityasya cha sharirinaha ime dehaha antavantah uktaha Bharata tasmat yuddhasva. So anashina, that means without nasha, without destruction. So anashina is one adjective, one attribute of the Atma. Then aprameya. Aprameya is something which cannot be measured. It's immeasurable, and it is kind of indestructible, eternal. And the third is anitya. Anitya, sorry, it's nitya. Anitya is impermanent. Nitya. Nitya means constant, always there, eternal, and so on. So nitya, so anashina, aprameya, and nitya. So three adjectives he uses for the Atma. Whereas deha, he uses the adjective antavanta. So something which has an end. So the body is something that has an end. It has an anta, a conclusion. There is a starting point, there's an ending point, right? For example, if you take a potter making a clay pot, he takes the clay and he sits on the potter's wheel, he fashions a beautiful pot. So there is a point of time when he took the clay and created this pot and made this, right? And then at some point, over a period of time, or because of somebody's carelessness, that somebody throws it down, it falls down and pot breaks. So it's the end of the pot. But that air which was inside the pot, which was always there before the pot was there, after the pot has broken, that air is always there. So that is like Atma, where there is no starting point, ending point for that air which was inside the pot. When that pot was there, that air was filling that pot inside, right? So something like that. He says the body is antavanta, it has an end, whereas the Atma is nitya, anashina, and aprameya. So knowing this reality, when having realized this truth, that the Atma is eternal, indestructible, infinite, take up arms and fight. So you know that this is all just a game and it's indestructible. So take up this thing and fight. So he uses the word Bharata here, possibly with a certain intention that you are the descendant of the great king Bharata and you are from this noble lineage. Therefore, you should live up to this this family line. And even long after a person's death, they are remembered because of their good noble deeds, right? So when we say that the body is short-lived and the Atma is eternal, we can also look at it in another sense, in a more practical sense, right? Now, physical life of a person is whatever, 70 years or 100 years or 120, whatever, depending on your life. But after the death of a person, there are so many other people who still remember them. So in that subtle form, they are still alive. So Vyasa is still alive today. Valmiki is still alive today. Kalidasa is alive today. Tyagaraja is alive. Physically, are they with us? No, they would have died long back. But their work, their contribution, their what they have given us continues to remain with us. Similarly, in our own lives, grandparents or great grandparents, somebody they would have died some years ago, but we have memories of them. We have they would have built a house, we are residing in that house, or they would have written a book, or they would have recorded some music, or they would have taught us some recipe, whatever. Through some form they are still alive. So until the last person who knows me dies, I am still alive, right? So naturally we know that even if you don't take Atma as something indestructible and eternal and all that, even if you consider it to be as a short-lived thing, got a longer life than the physical body. This much we are very clear, right? There is no, from our own experience, we know. Even before the child is born, there's so much of anticipation of the child. Their parents are having dreams of, oh my God, I'm going to have, if I have a boy child, I will give this name. If I have a girl child, I will give this name. So the child is already born in the head, right? It's not born physically, but it's already there. They're thinking about what to buy, what color thing, the thing they should get for the cot and all these things. Then even after the death of the person, oh, here, this is where we used to eat dosa, man, you're such a nice guy. This is where we used to go and do this, skating or rafting or whatever, right? You have memories of the dead person. So we know clearly that the spirit is longer than the bodily life. Okay. Oh, we have not recited this. So let's quickly recite this. Antavanta ime deha.
Antavanta ime deha.
Nityasyoktaha sharirinaha.
Nityasyoktaha sharirinaha.
Anashino prameyasya.
Anashino prameyasya.
Tasmad yudhyasva bharata.
Tasmad yudhyasva bharata.
Okay, very good. So with this, we come to the end of today's session. There will not be class tomorrow and the day after. We are having a weekend break. We will again resume on Monday morning, India time, Sunday evening, US time. And always, if there are any questions, anything, please write to me. I am getting certain questions that are not directly connected to Gita, in which case I will respond directly by email. I won't bring it up in the class. If it is something to do with what we have